Shalom Aleichem. We are going to learn about Pesach, a little bit about significance of Pesach and preparation for the Seder, a little bit about running the Seder, and mainly we'll focus on how to prepare your house and the kitchen for Passover, and how to kosher your utensils, your appliances, and how to make proper decisions which food that you already have is okay to use on Passover and which food needs to have hashgacha for Pesach. First, I would like to thank Mrs. Muscat for preparing these folders. Every year she spends a lot of time on them, as well as the office staff for putting them together, for printing and putting hundreds and hundreds of folders for being distributed all over Queens and Brooklyn. So it's very important to realize that Passover is not only about making our life difficult, about restrictions. The idea of Passover is to teach us something about ourselves and about life, and to inspire us for the coming year. So in addition to just cleaning, you also have to remember why we have Pesach. So we remember the story of Pesach that perhaps our parents told us, that the Jewish people were slaves in Egypt, and God took us out, and when He took us out, we were rushed out of Mitzrayim so fast that we didn't have a chance to prepare bread, and instead we had unleavened bread. The dough was not able to rise. That's what we remember. And for 40 years, the Jewish people walked in the desert, and they were supported by Hashem. But the question is, why did we have to go into slavery to begin with? And why did we need to go out of Egypt so fast? Why, if we were there already for 210 years, why couldn't we wait another couple hours to eat nice breakfast? And the answer to this question is going to tell us what is Passover for us now. And the simple answer is that Hashem needed a very strong nation, a nation that's going to survive for thousands of years. We are here already 3,500 years since the Exodus, and it's all thanks to the events in Egypt and what happened in the desert. Because as we know that later the secularists told us that the world functions on the survival of the fittest, but really it doesn't. Really, we know there is a merciful, kind God who supports the poor and the weak, and therefore you can be weak and poor and you can still survive. So we see that the Jewish people, despite being small in number, they survived. But that is only in physical. In physical world, you might be weak, but you'll survive anyway if you rely on God, because you have someone who is stronger than any strong man. But spiritually, it's not like that. Spiritually, really, you have to put in effort, because all external events depend on Hashem. He decides what's going to be. He decides who is going to get what. And therefore, we don't have to worry what's going to be with our physical life, what's going to be with our parnasah, and so on. Through the events of Egypt and the 10 plagues and the miracles and the desert, 40 years without agriculture, without economy, we survived, and we have been surviving for thousands of years without having our country, without having our own army. What we had in the last 70 years is an anomaly. For most of the Jewish life, we have been outside of our country, without any legal protection, and we still survive. So physically, Hashem takes care of us. However, spiritually, we say, Hakol bidei shamayim, everything is in the hands of God, chutz mirat shamayim. The only thing that God doesn't control is our moral choices, which we call fear of heaven. That when you are aware that somebody is watching me, that I am responsible, I have to give an answer to someone, then I behave differently. When I know there is a camera watching me, I will behave more honorably. And therefore, this idea that I recognize that there is God and I'm willing to lead my life according to that understanding, that is what we call fear of heaven. Meaning it's awareness that there is someone greater than I who created me and who is in charge of my life and who will judge me later. So in this area, we do say that it's up to you. You have to put in effort. You have to make your own decisions. And therefore, Hashem wanted to give this initial, like the boot camp, to see who is capable of surviving in the real world, among the 70 wolves. And because of that, we had to go through the 210 years of Egyptian exile, and we had to go through the events in the desert. And as we see in the Chumash, in the Torah, the Jewish people were selected. It was like a natural selection. The process repeated itself again and again, and it's compared, Egypt is compared to a melting pot. Not the American melting pot, but the melting pot where you put in the metal in its raw state from the ground, mixed with other materials, minerals, dirt, and when you melt it and you extract just the pure metal, and then you can go through this process again and again until you get 100% pure gold or whatever metal you are purifying. So that is what Egypt is called. Egypt is called Kur HaBarzel, an iron crucible where you melt things to purify them. And Hashem purified us through it. Now, why did we have to go through the persecution and a lot of killings throughout that period of time and throughout the rest of the Jewish history? Exactly for this reason. Because the closer we get to Mashiach, the closer we get to the pinnacle, the ultimate Geulah, the more we're being tested. The harder the tests are, because the closer we come to Mashiach, the closer we come to the deadline, the less time we have to achieve the goal of the world, and that is to show Hashem our devotion, commitment, and to teach the whole world about what is the truth, about the fact that those that follow God's will are rewarded and those that don't are punished. And because we have less and less time, now more has to be packed in. That's why coming close to the days of Mashiach is compared coming close to Shabbat. As we come close to Shabbat, things start to speed up. People start moving faster because we have to accomplish so much and we have less and less time. So this process is repeating itself, and therefore we have to accept any difficulty, any test happily, because we understand that if we pass this test, we're going to go to the next level. We're going to go to the semifinals and finally to the playoffs, because we are the ones that survived out of all the generations. So the Jewish people that are here now are the strongest. And a lot depends on us. So the idea of Egypt is exactly this, that through remembering that we were once slaves and now we're free and God took us out, we are strengthening ourselves, our emunah, our trust in Hashem and in ourselves, that life has purpose. There is a boss, there is an owner to the world, and he expects something from us, and he's there to help us. Any physical challenge he's going to take care of, like with the clouds of glory that made the path smooth in front of us, with man, the food, free food coming to us, and we had protection from the rain and from the sun and from the enemies. So too, if we focus on what's up to us, doing the right thing, then Hashem is going to take care of everything else. He's going to take care of our enemies abroad and within. He's going to take care of our parnasah and our health. Everything will be taken care of. What we need to focus on is spirituality, and that is the idea of matzah. Matzah, as opposed to chametz, represents spirituality as opposed to physicality. If you notice the word matzah and chametz, they both have the letter tzadi in it. They both have letter mem in it. And the only difference is that matzah has a hey and chametz has a het. And letter hey and het are very similar as well. Het is just like a house. It has 2 walls and a roof. And hey, it has 1 wall and the roof, but the second leg doesn't reach the top. There's a space in between. Just that little space, 1 dot. You take 1 dot away from het, it turns into a hey. So we say that the letter het represents the physical world. It's like the house, something solid, something that we can look at and feel protected by it. Whereas letter hey is spiritual. And even in the pronunciation, het, we have to, it's a guttural letter where we have to put in effort, het. Whereas hey is just breath. We just need to breathe out, and that's the letter. That's more spiritual. So matzah represents spirituality. Hametz represents physicality. Like the word homer, materialism, also starts with the letter het. So on Pesach we are reminded that we should not focus on hametz. We should not focus on the physical. We should rather focus on the spiritual. And we remind ourselves that don't worry about how are things going to be in the physical world if we're not putting in effort. Because we remind ourselves about the 10 plagues, about Hashem being in control of all nature, about the splitting of the sea, which cannot be explained with physical laws. Hashem taking care of all our needs for 40 years, 3 million people. And then we are ready to take on the world. But not with our muscles, not with our even degrees and brains and banks, rather with only our heart, only with our moral choices. That's the idea of Passover. And therefore, besides cleaning, which we will focus on today, besides that, you have to also prepare your mind and heart. And practically, it's important to learn about Passover. It's important to learn about Judaism in general, about God in general. But practically, it's also important to prepare yourself for the Passover Seder. Passover Seder is not a time to rest from the last few weeks of hard work. Passover Seder is a time to focus on the lessons of the Haggadah. And to actually read the Haggadah and to read it in a language that you can understand. And to inspire ourselves and others at the table. The main purpose for Passover Seder is to educate children. And by children we mean either in age or in their knowledge. Which means if anybody is not so knowledgeable, the focus of Passover Seder is to give them that knowledge and inspiration. It's not a time to focus on food. It's not a time to focus on very elaborate, deep Divrei Torah. Just simple explanation. And Haggadah has it. If you just read the Haggadah and pay attention and understand, you will be inspired. The problem that happens is that, first of all, many people are tired because they worked for many days without sleeping much. The 24 hours before Pesach are the most difficult. Children are also tired. Men are also tired. There are many guests and there is a balagan. And nobody can concentrate on the Haggadah. Another problem is that people often come into the Seder hungry. and come from work, and they don't have patience, and they're starving, and they cannot sit through the Haggadah. So just some preparation will resolve all these issues. Number one, it's important, if at all possible, either to take off that day, the day before Passover, which is Wednesday, or if that's not possible, at least take a half a day off. Work until midday, 12, 1 o'clock, and then come home so that you can rest. You can rest, take a nap, tell your children to go take a nap, tell your husband to go take a nap, so that you have strength to survive the Seder happily. The second thing is to eat something, even though we're not supposed to eat a whole meal before the Seder, but you can eat anything as long as it's not a whole meal. And so before sunset, eat something. Not only that, we have a custom to eat something after Kiddush. After we make Kiddush, it's a good idea to eat something. Some people have a custom to eat rice. Right after Kiddush, we drink the first cup, and instead of washing hands for karpas, they just sit down, they relax, they eat some rice, and then they continue with the Seder. You make the blessing for rice before and after, and then you go wash your hands. Or we, the Bukharians, we eat an egg, and a whole egg. We eat a whole egg to commemorate the destruction of Beit HaMikdash, because right now we're sitting in America and we're not in Yerushalayim, we're not in Beit HaMikdash, so we eat an egg. And an egg is a good way to calm your hunger pangs and to give you that extra time, half an hour, 1 hour, so that you don't have to say, when are we going to eat? And therefore, it's a good idea to cook a few dozen eggs, because you need it for 2 days, and distribute these eggs to every person at the beginning of the Seder, and pause after Kiddush. Let everyone enjoy. If someone is very hungry and they want to eat 2 eggs, let them to eat 2 eggs as well. This was the custom of Rav Ovadia Yosef as well. He used to eat rice, and he would tell everyone to eat rice after Kiddush, again, so that they can sit and read the Haggadah and talk about it. Especially if you have children, it's important to pay attention to them. And they often, coming from school or kindergarten, they have a lot to share, and they're excited, they want to sing songs. They don't want just to rush through the Haggadah in Hebrew, which they don't understand, and most of the people don't understand, and then just rush into the food. They want to enjoy the songs and the stories. Now, the third thing that can help us is to take time the day before Passover to prepare for the Seder by preparing portions of matzah and maror. Some people, they figured out that if you have a food scale or postal scale, and you cover it with plastic that it should be clean, and you pre-measure matzah, and you pre-measure romaine lettuce, and you put it in plastic bags, and you prepare enough for every person of the Seder for 2 days, you can distribute them at the beginning. And then the head of the family doesn't have to break pieces of matzah and estimate it, and then there's going to be an argument, you gave me too little, you gave me too much, I don't want to eat so much, give me more. You already give every person 3 bags of matzah and 2 bags of romaine lettuce, because we eat matzah 3 times, one for at the beginning when we wash hands for matzah, once for the sandwich korech, and once for afikomen. So you need 3 bags times 2 days, that means 6 bags. We'll speak about the measurement, how much, and 2 bags of romaine lettuce for each day. This way it also saves you not only time during the Seder, but also saves you money, because often you give out of caution, you give too much, and then people end up eating a lot. It's difficult, and you have to buy pre-checked romaine lettuce is expensive, and matzah is expensive. Why waste your money? So instead, pre-measure everything and save yourself time during the Seder, because there is no distribution time required. as soon as the head of the family makes the blessing, everyone takes their bag and eats right away. But for that, you need a postal scale, and you need maybe an hour or two to actually prepare everything. Because we only need whole matzah for the head of the table, who is going to make the blessing on it, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Everyone else is going to get broken matzah anyway after the head of the family breaks it. So that's why it's not a problem that they have broken matzah. As long as there is a whole matzah at the head of the table, it's enough. Everyone fulfills their mitzvah like that. So now let us go quickly through the Seder and speak about the measurements. There are three kinds of matzah that's available that we can use for the Pesach Seder. We're not speaking about the egg matzah, because egg matzah cannot be used for the Pesach Seder. But besides egg matzah, there are three kinds of matzah, and that is regular matzah, which we call Manischewitz matzah. It can come from any other company, but it's regular matzah, which we're not supposed to use for the Pesach Seder. We can use this matzah for the remainder of Pesach, for lunches, as well as Chol HaMoed and the last days. But for the 2 nights, we're supposed to use Shemura matzah. And there are 2 kinds of Shemura matzah. One is hand matzah, that is round, and one is square matzah, and that is machine matzah. Both of these matzot are permitted for the Passover Seder. Machine matzah is generally 2 times cheaper than the hand matzah. So someone for whom it's hard to pay for the hand matzah, they can buy machine Shemura matzah. Just make sure it says the word Shemura on it. But someone who can afford, it's preferable to have hand matzah for the Seder. Which hand matzah you buy, it doesn't matter. As long as it has hashgacha, all of them are good. Whether you buy it for $12.99 a pound or you buy it for $60 a pound, doesn't matter. All of them are kosher. As long as it says matzah shemura, handmade, avodat yad, and it has a reliable hashgacha, like OU or badatz or any other hashgacha, it's good. You don't have to buy the most expensive. The reason why people buy more expensive matzah is for 2 reasons. Either they follow personal stringencies, which you don't have to, unless you are aware of them and you accept them upon it yourself voluntarily, you don't have to follow them. And number 2 is because they want thin matzah. If it's hard for you to chew regular matzah, then maybe you should buy for yourself 1 pack of thin matzah specifically for the Seder, but only for those that it actually is difficult. For most people that I know, they don't have a problem eating. And again, if you pre-measure, you'll find out that it's not so much. You don't have to eat so much of matzah, and if not necessary, don't spend extra money to buy thin matzah. Regular matzah is as kosher. Now, yeah.
Oh, sorry, I have a question. Do we have to wash our hands every time we eat matzah?
We wash hands twice by the Seder, one without a blessing, for karpas, for the celery in salt water, and once for matzah. That's it. Unless your hands are dirty, then you wash without a blessing. If you, let's say you go to the bathroom, you wash again, but without the blessing. Otherwise, you don't have to wash another time.
The day of the Seder, of the night of the Seder, could we eat egg matzah?
Yes, the day before Passover, we're not allowed to eat regular matzah, but we can eat egg matzah. Yes. Now, what is the proper amount of this matzah? Whether you have machine shemura matzah or hand shemura matzah, it doesn't matter. But what is the amount of kezayit? Every person must eat the volume of an olive, but not a regular olive, but very large, the largest olive that you can find. The volume of it. And the head of the family should eat 2 of those volumes. So we'll speak about everyone else. For the head of the table, just make double the size. So according to the most stringent opinion, it is 27 grams or 1 ounce. If someone is very healthy and loves matzah and can eat a lot of it, that's the size they should use. However, if you find it difficult, you can use 20 grams. 20 grams of matzah. Then there is another opinion that you can rely on, and that is 18 grams. And for somebody who finds it very difficult, you can use 14 grams, which means any child under bar mitzvah, you don't have to give them 28 grams, you don't have to give them 20 or 18, you can give them 14 grams of matzah, and that's enough. For elderly or sick people who cannot eat even 14 grams, you can give them 11 grams. That is the bare minimum. But we recommend that every person should try to eat 20 grams. That is the average. 20 grams, which means you would measure 20 grams times 3 for each person times 2 days, which means you would basically prepare 6 bags of 20 grams each. It may be a lot of time before Passover, but it's going to save you a lot of money on Pesach and a lot of time on Pesach, and plus a lot of worry, because people often worry, did I eat enough? Did I fulfill my mitzvah? This way you don't have to worry. You're confident that I ate enough.
Sorry. So 20 grams times 3, meaning 60 grams for the day?
For each day, yes.
Each day,
Yes,
okay.
60 grams times 2 is 120
Yeah.
grams, and that's how you can calculate how much matzah to buy, how many guests you have. Yes?
27 grams for the head of the household or for everyone?
The head of the household should eat the double amount. So if, for example, you use the minimum amount, which is, let's say, 14 grams, then the head of the household, if he eats 28 grams, then he'll fulfill not only a full ounce according to the most strict opinion, but he'll also fulfill 2 ounces, I'm sorry, not 2 ounces, 2 olive volumes according to the more lenient opinion. So we would recommend that the head of the household eat 28 grams to fulfill 2 olive volumes, 2 kezayits according to more lenient opinion. If they can, they should do 27 times 2, 54, but that might be too much. You can measure and see if they can handle it. But if not, just 28 grams for the head of the family times 3. And for everyone else, just 20 grams times 3. And if it's difficult, 14 grams times 3.
Based off of the average sized circular shmura matzah, what does that look like?
That's why it's very difficult to estimate, because it depends on the thickness of the matzah. Every box, every company produces different amount. Some have 6 matzot per pound. So you divide the pound into 6. And plus each matzah might be different thickness, different size. Some have 7 matzot, some have 8, some have 9, up to 10 matzot per pound. And so you might have to eat a whole matzah. If it's very thin, you might have to eat half or 2/3 or 1/3. So it's very difficult.
If you don't measure it beforehand.
If you don't measure, that's why it makes it very difficult. If you have to estimate, at least if you don't have time to measure, at least open one box and measure one amount, so that you know how much is it. You know approximately what it is, and then you'll know, is it half, is it a third, a quarter, 2/3, a whole matzah, depending which matzah you buy. Yes.
Am I required to have shmura matzah in my house if I'm not hosting the Seder?
As long as when you go to the Seder, you will have shmura matzah.
Yes.
The rest of the time, you don't have to eat shmura
So in
matzah.
my house, I don't have to worry about that when I get my house.
Yes,
ready. I
right.
might have a guest over who's going to other people. Should I have it for her just in case? I don't know.
You can buy if you want. If
But I'm not.
you're not required, if you want, just in case, to be on the safe side, you can buy 1 box of machine shmura matzah, which is kosher according to us, and according to some, it's even ideal. For example, German Jews, they only eat machine shmura matzah because they say machines don't make mistakes, and therefore they trust a machine more. You don't have to worry about hands not being washed. You don't have to worry about their sweat falling in. and so on and so forth. But
In size, they're probably all the same. No?
also, the machine shmura matzah is more convenient because it's all even in thickness and same size and same weight, and it's baked evenly, so you don't have any burnt matzah, and it's easier to deal with. So again, if you want to save money or make it more convenient, you're allowed to. But again, ideally, if someone can, they should have hand shmura matzah for the seder. Now, when we eat matzah by the seder, we have to lean. And so we eat matzah 3 times. We have to lean 3 times. And when we drink wine on the seder, we have to lean on your left side. Now, leaning,
Oh, so we lean on the right for the matzah?
no, always lean on the left
Oh,
side.
okay.
Yeah, where your heart is.
Okay. Thank you.
When you lean, you cannot lean on air. You have to lean on something. Either you have to sit sideways and lean on the table, or you have to sit backwards and lean on the back of your chair, or you have to put your chair sideways and lean on the back of the chair sideways. Or if you have armchair, you can lean on the arm of the chair.
Can you show it again? Sorry. No.
So you can just be like
Either,
in the
yeah,
air.
you cannot be in the air. You have to
Oh.
either lean on the table,
Okay.
and it's not your head that has to lean, it's your body. The head can stay straight because you have to be able to drink and eat, that it shouldn't spill. So your head can stay straight, but your body leans
Oh.
either on the table or on the chair. But you cannot lean back on the chair. You have to sit sideways and lean on your side.
Okay.
Can you lean on someone else?
You can lean on someone else as well. If you wanted to make it more comfortable for them, you can put a pillow on their lap and lean on them. Yes, but inform them beforehand. Okay, so next is wine. Ideally, wine for the seder should be red wine. It should be alcoholic. It should be not pasteurized, which we call not mivushal, and ideally it should be without added sugar. That's the ideal wine. But if it's not available, or circumstances are such that person cannot use it, for example, person cannot handle wine, so they can use grape juice. If person is, for some reason, let's say, cannot find red wine or is allergic to red wine, let's say, then he can use white wine. So it can be white wine, it can be grape juice. If a person can't find wine without sugar added, it's okay with sugar added. And if he cannot find wine that is not pasteurized, or if they have either non-Jews or Jewish people who don't keep Shabbat, they cannot use non-pasteurized wine, and therefore pasteurized wine becomes the choice. So again, ideally it should be red, alcoholic, not pasteurized, and no sugar added.
So, we have elderly and people with medicine, but we still want to be zoche, like wine, not grape juice. So we get like a 3%, a 5%.
Yes.
Does that count though?
Yes,
But
yes. So even
all of it is
3%,
negotiable, though.
even 3% is okay. If
There's
for
still, like,
example,
Yotze
Kedem wines, they have a rule that any 750 milliliter Kedem wine is mivushal, is pasteurized, and any 1.5 liters Kedem wine in a glass bottle is not mivushal. So if you need not mivushal, buy that, and also if you need mivushal, don't buy that.
Wait, is all Kedem juice kosher Passover? It has to be specific.
Usually all Kedem juices and wines are kosher for Passover, yes. In general, all wines and grape juices are kosher because it's just
Yeah.
grapes. Just make sure it's made from grapes, because there are some wines that are cold wines, but they're not wine. It can be made from pomegranate, it can be made from plum and apples, other things. Just make sure it's made from grapes. If it has, let's say, peach flavor, that's okay. It's just a flavor, but it's not made from peaches, it's made from grapes, yes.
I just want to make sure, you said it should not be Mefushal, right?
Ideally, yes, yes. Now, when we drink wine, we have to drink from a cup that can contain 3 ounces minimum, which means we cannot use a tiny cup, cannot use a shot glass. It has to be a cup that can hold 3 or more ounces, or 86 milliliters or 86 grams of grape juice or wine. If your cup is bigger, that's fine, but the rule is that ideally you should drink the whole cup, but you fulfill your mitzvah if you drink majority. If you cannot drink because of too much sugar or too much alcohol, then it's okay. If you have a 3-ounce cup, it's okay to drink just 2 ounces. And then you just refill it. Now, you have to make sure that it is grape juice or wine that has majority of wine or grape juice, meaning you can dilute your wine and grape juice, but you still have to make sure that 51% is grape juice. So if you use light Kedem grape juice, that's okay, but you cannot add any more water to it. There is a light Kedem grape juice where they mix it with water already to reduce calories, and they put sugar substitute instead. It still tastes sweet, but it doesn't have so much sugar. You can use it for somebody who cannot handle too much sugar, but don't add any more water. If you use regular Kedem grape juice, you can still add 1/3 water if you need. Ideally, you shouldn't, but if you have someone who cannot handle too much sugar, you can put 2 ounces of grape juice and 1 ounce of water. And out of that mixture, they only need to drink 2 ounces. So they end up drinking maybe only 1.5 ounces of grape juice times 4. They only end up drinking throughout the whole night only 6 ounces, which is even less than a cup of grape juice. Which,
So you said it has to contain 3 ounces, but we should drink.
if you need, you can only drink majority of the cup, except for the last cup. The last cup, the 4th cup, you should drink the whole cup, because you can only say the after bracha al hagefen if you drank 3 ounces. So when we drink wine, we need to lean all 4 cups. If you forget to lean either for matzah or wine, you have to eat again or drink again. If you forget to lean, yes. That's why you should remind everyone before making the blessing, before making kiddush, remind everyone you have to lean. And before saying hamotzi, remind everyone to lean for the matzah. Same for afikomen and for all other cups of wine. Now, in order to help yourself, you should find the smallest cups that you have, as close to 3 ounces as possible. 3.2, 3.5, 4 ounces is good, but don't get 5, 6, 7, 8 ounce, because then you'll have to, again, you'll waste a lot of wine, and that's money, and you'll have to drink more, and then you'll either become drunk more, or you'll have sugar rush, or your children will be wild. So use the smallest cup possible. If you have those cups, and the way to measure it, either by what it says on the box, or you put that cup on the scale, you set it to 0, and then you add water to it, and you continue adding water, and you see if 3 ounces fit. If 3 ounces fit, good. Or you can continue pouring until the top, and you see how much the cup fits. If the cup fits 4, good. Anyway, the cup should be more than 3 ounces, because you usually don't fill the cup till the top. So you let a little few millimeters on top to be empty, and therefore the cup should ideally have 3.2, 3.5 ounces, so that empty space, with it, it's only going to be 3 ounces. So if the cup is 4 ounces, between 3.5 to 4, that's the ideal. This way, you can let some space on top. If you don't have such cups at home, you should will go to a store, Housewares or Amazing Savings, and they do have these cups. It's a good idea to buy these cups and then save them for next year. This way, you don't have to go through this every year. You'll always have a set of proper size cups for all the guests for future. Ideally, they should be real cups, whether made from glass or metal, but not disposable. If you don't have a choice and disposable is all you have, then you can use disposable. But ideally, it should be something honorable.
Question. I know how a lot of people in my family they bought this set where you pour the wine and it pours out to all the cups. Are those 3 ounces?
Usually not.
Not? Okay.
You can measure them. If you have cups that are 3 ounces, that's good. But if not, then you can't use it.
Yeah.
I know the regular, disposable kiddush cups, they're only 2 ounces. That's not enough, right?
Yes, it has to be either 3 ounces or 86 millimeters. Now,
But the ones from Amazing Savings, are they disposable?
no, they have all kinds. They have glass. They have nice glass ones that are either 3 or 4 or 5 ounces. They have various kinds. Now, let's continue. Besides eating the matzah at the beginning of the Seder, it's also important not to forget, and this is the part that most people have hard time with, is that afikomen is also required. Meaning, afikomen is the last matzah that we eat, for the one that we hid, and then we bring it out and we divide it among people. Of course, that matzah that we hid is not going to be enough for everyone. You will have to give people their pre-measured bag or give them another piece of any other matzah from the box, and in addition give them a piece of afikomen. They should eat part of that afikomen. If they want to save a part for good luck for future, they can, but they cannot save the whole thing because they have to eat part of it, and in addition to that they have to eat the rest of the measured matzah for them, because the afikomen also has to be an olive volume. Now, if for some reason you lost the afikomen, or the children hid it and they don't want to give it back to you, or they ask for a high price, you can use any other matzah for afikomen. You take any other matzah and you designate it as afikomen. Now, let's continue to maror. Maror is a bitter herb. So the Talmud lists a few different kinds of bitter herbs, but it recommends that we should use romaine lettuce. And the reason is because romaine lettuce reminds us of our life in Egypt. At the beginning, romaine lettuce is sweet, and then as it matures, it becomes bitter. Just like the Jewish people were treated first well, and then they were enslaved. So even though now romaine lettuce tastes not bitter, but because if it stayed in the ground, it would turn bitter, it's enough. It doesn't actually have to be bitter now. Ashkenazim use horseradish raw, not pickled, not salted. But for us, that's not good. We have to use romaine lettuce. If you want to add horseradish just for taste and for the sharpness and to cry a little bit, you can. But again, your main maror has to be romaine lettuce. How much of it? Also an olive size, which happens to be a whole ounce. So it's also good to pre-measure romaine lettuce, and you have to pre-measure 27 grams or 1 ounce times 2, because you need 1 ounce for maror and 1 ounce for korech, for the sandwich, times 2 days. So you basically need 4 bags per person. Matzah, you need 6 bags per person. Maror, you need 4 bags per person. When we eat maror, we don't lean, but from wine and matzah we do. Okay. For women especially, it's important to participate in the Haggadah as well. It's not enough that the head of the household is reading. If you go to the kitchen and you don't hear what he's saying, then you have to read it for yourself. And therefore, if a woman knows that she needs to leave to take care of the baby or to go to the kitchen, she can read from her own Haggadah. Go ahead, read it a couple pages ahead, then go take care of whatever needs to be done, then come back and continue reading and catch up where you are. Every person needs to either hear the Haggadah or to read it themselves. Now, let us go to the next section, and that is food for Passover. Now, according to Sephardim, the regular Sephardi halakha is that we can eat kitniyot. There are various customs in different communities. For example, the original Bukharian custom was only to eat rice, but not other kitniyot. Now, many Bukharians are changing to the standard Sephardi custom and to allow kitniyot. Ideally, such a person should do Hatarat Nedarim, and we have done Hatarat Nedarim with Emet for hundreds of students and their families in the past years. If someone didn't do it yet and they want to eat kitniyot, they should ideally, or the head of the household should do Hatarat Nedarim. And for rice, we can use any rice that is not enriched, which means you look at the ingredients, it should only say rice, it should not list any vitamins. You look at the nutritional panel and it should say that most vitamins are 0. If there is a little bit of iron, it's okay. But usually unenriched rice, most vitamins is 0. And it shouldn't say on the package enriched, the word enriched. And practically we have our kokuho rice, whether it's in a red package or yellow package, which is good, it's not enriched. And usually basmati rice or jasmine rice is also not enriched, they're also okay. In addition, you have to check rice. White rice we have to check once, brown rice and any other kitniyot we have to check 3 times. So if you have any kind of white rice, you just check it a few grains at a time quickly, make sure there is nothing there besides rice. And if you have brown rice, you have to watch out more carefully because the color is similar to wheat or other grains, and you have to check it 3 times.
When you check rice, I see, is it, you can't check it, it has to be on a white, what is the procedure to check?
You put rice on a big plate
Dry,
or
dry
or
wet?
white tablecloth.
Dry.
Dry, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. And you put it in one pile on one side and you just go with your hand little by little until you go through, not 1 grain at a time, a few, a whole pinch at a time, and you just scan it.
Do you do the same thing with how many grits? Like, you ever heard of polenta and grits and things like that?
Lentils?
No, how many grits and polenta?
No, those are chametz. Those you cannot use.
No, not for Pesach, but just in general,
Oh.
is that how you?
General, yeah, if you want to check them for bugs,
Is that how
you can do that, yes, yes. Similarly, if you eat any other kitniyot, beans, lentils, buckwheat, quinoa, all these you also have to check similar way, but you have to check them 3 times. You have to be especially careful with buckwheat because it's very dirty with other grains, and so it may take you more than 3 times to finally, until the last time you go through it, you don't find any foreign material, only buckwheat. Therefore, generally buckwheat is not recommended because you do find a lot of other grains in it. Okay. Now, your folders also have a page with important zmanim that lists the time to do the search for chametz on Tuesday night, which is about 7:40 p.m. or later. The time to eat chametz for the last time in the morning, and that is about 10:20 a.m. on Wednesday morning. After that, you cannot eat chametz anymore. You can still have it for your animals or to sell it, and you have to get rid of chametz, to burn it or to sell it before 11:40 a.m. on Wednesday, April 5th. This page also has the blessing for the search, and as well as instructions how to search. And the statement that we say after we search, we nullify the chametz. It's called bitul chametz. You have to do it twice, once at night after the search is complete, and once in the morning after you burn your chametz. It also has times for candle lighting. And it also reminds you to do eruv tafshilin on the other side, because Shabbat follows Yom Tov. We need to prepare food. It's on the same page, on the other side of the page. The blue one on the other side. Yeah, and since we cannot cook on Yom Tov for Shabbat unless we started cooking on a weekday, that's why we take a hard-boiled egg and we say this is for Shabbat, and we take one matzah so that we have a cooked food and a baked food, and we say the blessing. The blessing is on this page, Asher Kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al mitzvat eruv, and we set it aside and we say this is the beginning of our preparing for Shabbat, and we'll continue preparing for Shabbat on Friday. And then on Friday afternoon you can cook, and it also allows you to light candles Friday before Shabbat.
How big should the matzah be? Like, what size should it be for the eruv?
For the eruv, you just take regular machine matzah, one machine matzah, one slice.
And you must eat the whole thing, or it doesn't matter?
No, and then on Shabbat you eat it. You don't have to eat it all by yourself. You divide it. You cut the egg. You give the egg anytime on Shabbat. For example, Seudah Shlishit, because it's a matzah, so you can wash on it and you eat it as bread. Okay. Also, we have to make sure we sell our chametz. For that, we have to isolate it in our kitchen or basement or garage, anywhere you want. You can leave it in the refrigerator or freezer, but you have to put it in a bag. It shouldn't get mixed, and mark it on a shelf, separate shelf or part of the shelf, both freezer and the refrigerator or cabinets. Anything that you are not planning to use on Passover, that part of the kitchen you can just cover, seal, mark, and sell. This way you don't have to clean, you don't have to check. Any cabinets that you don't need for Passover, don't bother cleaning, just sell them. However, things that you are planning to use on Passover, you have to clean very well to make sure there is no crumbs of chametz if it has to do with food. Any other part of the house where we don't eat, it's enough just to do the general inspection to make sure there is no olive size of chametz there. For example, if you're just checking your clothing drawers, your closets, it's enough just to make sure you don't have any chametz Cheerio size or bigger, anything that you might be tempted to eat, any cookie, candy, packaged goods. That's all you're searching. So the rest of your house should be very quick. Bedrooms, bathrooms, hallways, closets, all of that can be done very quick. Just go through everything, pockets, knapsacks, bags, and as long as there is no actual chametz there, it's fine. You don't have to vacuum, you don't have to wash, because you're not eating there. However, in the kitchen, that's another story. That's where we will focus majority of our effort. Because chametz is forbidden even a tiny bit, we have to make sure that there is not even a crumb, not even a residue, not even an absorption of chametz in our utensils. And so how do we do that? Now we turn to the general Pesach cleaning notes. And again, it starts by telling you that any utensils that you don't need for Passover, just pack them away and include them in a sale. We don't sell utensils, but we do sell any chametz that is on them or stuck to them. Now, dish towels, hand towels, and tablecloths, anything that can go to the washing machine with detergent after the wash, it becomes kosher for Passover.
Oh, so Ashkenaz also?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
Good to know.
Same with clothing. For example, if you don't want to go through all the pockets of your clothes, if you give it to cleaners or you put it in laundry, it's going to become kosher. Same with children knapsacks. If they are washable, you just put them in a washing machine and with detergent, and then you don't have to check them. Or anyway, since children don't have school on Passover, you can just put them in a closet and sell them together with your chametz. This way you don't have to clean your children's knapsacks. Next, vacuum cleaner, don't forget to empty the bag before Pesach and throw it out so that you don't have all the chametz that you vacuumed in one place. Garbage cans, usually they're dirty, so wash them before Passover and make sure you throw out the garbage bag before Passover if there is any chametz there that you put before Pesach. Make sure you throw it out before 11:40 a.m. After 11:40 a.m. on Wednesday, we can eat other foods, including egg matzah, but we cannot eat regular matzah, and of course we cannot eat chametz anymore. Any chametz that we forgot to sell will become forbidden after Passover. That's why we have to remember to do the sale of chametz. Now, we go to page R8 and we speak about how to kosher your appliances and utensils. First, we start with the oven. If your oven has self-cleaning feature, just run the self-cleaning cycle and the oven is going to become kosher. Not only that, anything that you put in that oven for the self-cleaning cycle will also become kosher, whether it is the stove grates or barbecue grates or sticks or stainless steel pots or cast iron pots. Anything you put in the oven for self-cleaning cycle, afterwards it's all going to become kosher. All you need to do is just rinse it from the soot, the ash, and it's good. However, be careful not to put anything aluminum, anything plastic, anything non-stick coating because it's going to melt and get ruined. If you don't have a self-cleaning oven, then you actually have to wash it first with oven cleaner to make sure there is no residue of food, not on the bottom of it, not on walls, not on the door, and not on the racks. And then you set it on the highest flame, on the highest temperature for 1 hour. Next, we go to the microwave. You wash it very well with soap and sponge. Microwaves are usually dirty because food splatters all over. You have to wash all surfaces, the door, the top, the bottom, all walls, including the plate. After it's sparkling clean, then you put a glass bowl of water in it and you run the microwave until the water starts boiling and fills the whole microwave with steam. The glass tray, because it's glass, it's enough just to wash it. Now we go to page R9, stove top. If it's gas stove, then you have 3 options. Either you put them into the self-cleaning oven and it's going to become good, or you put a piece of aluminum foil, flat piece like this size, on top of the burner, the grate. You turn it on the highest for 2-3 minutes, and that's it. Then you move it to the next one, and again turn it on the highest, and the heat that's going to be there is going to burn all the food residue that's there. And like this you do for each one of the burners, and that's enough.
If I don't want to use the self-cleaning option because it does ruin my oven, can I put it on the highest and then put the grates inside for an hour?
No, in such a case, just do this. Only the self-cleaning option helps you to kosher other things. For grates, then just put the foil. And the third option is, after you clean them, to put the grates into your sink, and you can do it at the same time as you're koshering the sink. The way we kosher the sink is also to wash it with soap and then just pour boiling water. So while you're pouring boiling water on it, you can put your grates in there as well and pour boiling water on both of them.
For option 2, when you put the
you need to put aluminum foil after you burned it through, or it's fine?
No, that's it. Once you put aluminum foil on top, the fire creates the heat that's going to burn everything, and then you remove it and you can start using it for Pesach. Next is the burners themselves. You don't have to worry about, because not the pots and not the food touches them. If you see that they have food residue, then take off that plate and wash it. Otherwise, it's okay. The surface of the stove we consider not kosher, because throughout the year both milk spills there and meat spills there, and for Pesach we have a problem with chametz spilling there as well. So any food that falls on the stove top and it's hot, we don't use. Some people cover the stove top with aluminum foil. That's going to help you for Pesach, because it's going to cover it from chametz. But if milk and meat spills there again, you'll have a problem, because you have a mixture of meat and milk on the same surface. Now we go to electric stovetop. Electric stovetop is easier because it heats up to red hot and it burns everything. All you need to do is just turn it on the highest until it becomes red hot and it's ready. If you have glass top stove, all you need to do is just wash it with soap and sponge. Once it's clean, it's good, because again, for Sephardim, glass doesn't absorb, and therefore it's always kosher as long as it's clean. That's what we do for our utensils. If you have glass cups or plates, you can use them for Passover. Just wash them with soap. If you have glass containers with plastic covers, you can use them for Passover by washing both. Just make sure you don't put the cover on if the food is hot. Make sure the food cools down a little bit, and then you can use it for food. Next is plata, electric hot plate, or a blech. These things are usually dirty, so you have to wash it very well and scrub it with soap and sponge. And even afterwards, you have to cover it with aluminum foil. And make sure whenever you use a blech or a hot plate on Passover, it's always covered with aluminum foil. If one layer rips, cover it with another layer. Okay, now dishwasher, just make sure it doesn't have any food residue, and run one cycle with soap, detergent, and hot water. And after that cycle, you can use it for Pesach. Sink we already spoke about. Just wash it with soap and pour boiling water on the bottom. Yes?
Can I run that cycle with like all my glass cups at the same time? And also for...
Yes, once you're running an empty cycle for the dishwasher, you might as well put your clean glass dishes and cups, and that will prepare them for Pesach as well.
And same goes for the pots in the oven?
Pots in the oven, when you
do one cycle altogether?
Yes, in the cleaning self-cleaning cycle in the oven, you can put all your pots and they will become kosher for Pesach. Now, for counters, there are a few options. Some people cover them. It's not required to cover them if you do one of the next two options. The first option is to wash it with soap and sponge and then pour boiling water on it. That may work for granite counters or quartz counters, but it might ruin wooden counters or formica counters. So once you wash your counters with soap and pour boiling water, you don't have to cover them. You can use them on Pesach, and you can even put hot food on them directly. However, if you don't want to deal with boiling water, you can use the option 3, which is wash your counters with soap and sponge very well, and then you can use them on Passover for your pots, pans, plates, and cutting boards, but just don't put your food directly on the counter. As long as you put your food on plates or cutting boards, or they're in the pot, it's okay. So in times of need, that's all you need to do for the counter. Just wash it with soap. And always put food on something else. Yes.
I have a hot kettle, a hot water kettle that's glass. I don't have to get a new one.
Right.
I can
Anything glass, just wash it, and it's going to be good. The next thing is hot water urn. Hot water urn, since it was always used for water, it's essentially kosher. Just perhaps you touched it with dirty hands, so wash it on the outside with soap, rinse it on the inside, and it's good. Unless you put bread on top to warm up. If you put bread on top, then it's better not to use that hot water urn. Otherwise, whether it's a handheld urn or a big urn that we use for Shabbat, both of them can just be washed and used on Pesach.
Also Ashkenaz as well, I can follow that?
Ashkenaz as well, as long as you know it's clean. Because even for Ashkenazim, if a utensil was never used for chametz, was always used for water, then it is
I
kosher.
get confused because I know with glass, I can't do certain things, that's why I wanted to be clear.
Yes, yes.
Just to confirm what you were saying before about the plastic, the glass containers with the plastic covers, if the cover is completely plastic, you can just wash it well and then
Yes,
cover it.
the plastic cover, you wash it well and just don't use it for hot food. Which means if you want to put this container in a microwave, don't put the cover on. Put a plate on it or plastic, and only once the food cools down, then you can cover it. Now for utensils. Anything that is stainless steel or aluminum or silver, we can kosher by boiling it. So the way we do it is first we wait 24 hours since the last time we used it for hot food, and then we drop it into boiling water. If the utensil is very big, like a big pot, and we cannot immerse it in boiling water, then we have to boil water in it itself. We fill it up till the top, we wait until it boils, and we let the water spill over, either by dropping a hot stone, a hot object, or by shaking it a little bit, allowing the water to spill over. And we take the cover and immerse it and turn it until the whole cover is kosher. Anything that is non-stick, we don't kosher. Porcelain dishes, we don't kosher. Ceramic, we don't kosher. Earthenware, we don't kosher. Plastic, we don't kosher. So either stainless steel, aluminum, but again, it cannot have non-stick cover. Many aluminum things, they have non-stick cover. That non-stick cover is like plastic, and therefore we cannot kosher it. Glass, as we said, any kind of glass we can just wash. And glass is either Pyrex, crystal, and Corelle. Corelle plates are considered glass, and they can just be washed with soap. Now, some things we cannot kosher with boiling water. Rather, we need to actually burn it in fire. And that is things that were not used with any liquid, not with oil and not with water, they were used directly. For example, grills, sometimes people put not only meat, but they also put bread there to toast, and therefore those grates cannot be used on Pesach unless we either put them in a self-cleaning oven, or we get new ones, or you cover them with coals. On both sides, you cover them with hot coals, and that will burn them. If you cannot do it, then it's better not to use it on Passover. Okay. Things that are not used for hot chametz during the year, they don't need to be koshered, only washed. For example, refrigerator and freezer. You don't need to cover it, don't need to kosher it, just wash it, all the shelves and walls, and they are going to be good. Same with our tables. Tables we usually don't put chametz directly on it hot, so just wash the table and that's it. Plus we use a table cover on it, plastic or even cloth, that's enough. If you want to eat directly on the table, just wash it with soap, just like with the counter, and don't put food directly on it. Always use plates. Similarly, for child's high chair and table, just wash it with soap because we don't put hot boiling food for the child anyway.
We don't have to pour water on.
You don't have to pour water because it never absorbed non-kosher food in it. Same for children's plates and batis. If you have bottles, spoons, plates for your children, we usually don't put hot food in them anyway, and therefore, even if they're plastic, just wash them with soap. If you know that your child is older and you do put hot food, or you put his plate in the microwave and it heats up, then you do need to kosher it, and if it's plastic, you can't. But normal circumstances, whether it's baby cereal, baby food, whatever regular food you give them, it's usually not hot. Similarly, kiddush cups. Kiddush cup that we use throughout the year, we only use it for wine or grape juice, and therefore it's kosher. You just need to wash it with soap, and you can use it for Passover. Same for dentures, salt shakers, and toothbrushes. You can just wash it with soap and it's good. For toothbrush, it's recommended to get a new toothbrush, but someone cannot, then they can just wash it with soap. Okay, certain appliances we don't use on Pesach because it's impossible to kosher them properly, and that is a toaster, whether it is a toaster for bread with slots, or it's a toaster oven, we don't kosher them, and mixer, whether it is a handheld mixer or a standing mixer for that we use for making dough, cakes, we don't kosher them because as we mix flour, the flour flies all over, enters the inside of it, and then on Pesach, as we're going to use it, the flour is going to descend. Yes?
So would I have to buy like a new mixer for that?
If
There's
you need
no
it for
way.
Passover, yeah, you need to get a new mixer. Again, even if you change the beaters or you boil them, it's not going to help because inside the mixer you might have flour. Yes.
Is one kosher on like a baking sheet that you put inside the oven by pouring boiling water?
No, because baking sheet is used dry, and therefore boiling water is not going to help. It needs to be heated to high temperature, and heating it to high temperature is going to ruin it because it has non-stick cover. So either get a new one. If you cannot get a new one, you can put it on the highest, clean it well, put it on the highest, and then always line it with aluminum foil or parchment paper, preferably aluminum foil, and then on top of it parchment paper, so that in case it rips, you have the second layer.
If you have an electric toothbrush, do you still recommend getting like a new, like reusable one? I mean,
Either, well, anyway, if you have electric toothbrush for Shabbat or Yom Tov, you're not going to be able to use it,
Yeah.
and you have 5 days like that in Pesach,
yeah,
so it makes sense to get
yeah,
a standard toothbrush. Okay, next is medicine cabinet. For medicines that have no taste, rather they are pills or tablets, and they're medicine, they don't have to be kosher for Passover, and they don't have to be kosher throughout the year. Again, they have to be pills or tablets that you swallow, not chewable, not liquid, but tablets or pills that you swallow, they don't have to be kosher, and only if they are medicine. If it's a vitamin, then it's considered like food supplement, and therefore we treat it as food, and you have to make sure it doesn't have any ingredients of the 5 grains: wheat, barley, oats, spelt, or rye, and preferably it should be on one of the lists that have kosher for Passover vitamins. But for Sephardim, kitniot are not such a problem, and therefore, as long as you don't have any derivatives of those 5, it's recommended to at least look that it shouldn't have them directly. It shouldn't say any mention of it, and it should be gluten-free. If necessary, you can rely on that.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
what about lotion, skin lotion?
Okay, that's a good point. Now, all other products, whether they're cleaning products, whether they are personal hygiene products, hair products, creams,
Makeup.
makeup, perfume, or toothpaste or mouthwash, anything that is not edible to a dog can be used on Passover. Ideally, if you have everything with hashgacha, that's better, of course. But if not, you don't have to get anything different from cleaning agents, soap, shampoo, including your mouthwash, toothpaste, creams, any makeup. All of that can be used, because if you notice, most things that we use have other chemicals, have preservatives, have fragrances which make it inedible. Not only humans, but make it inedible to even a dog. So therefore, usually they're all okay. Unless you know that you bought a special organic, natural kind that is edible, doesn't have any chemicals, no preservatives, nothing, or something homemade. Let's say you made scrub from oats at home, and it's just oats, water, and whatever else, and it's even edible, so then of course you have to get rid of it and get a different one. But otherwise, anything commercial is usually fine for Passover.
Dry shampoo has flour, and I think that's what absorbs the oil. But it's dry shampoo, it has dye, it has this, do I have to
Yes.
get rid of that?
No. Anything that has chemicals or preservatives or fragrances that make it inedible, you can use. Okay, yes.
You mentioned Corelle plates before. So if you have one set of that for Passover, could you use it for both meat and dairy?
Technically, you can use glass dishes, including Corelle, for both dairy and meat, for Sephardim and for Pesach, but it's not recommended because you will have a headache. You have to always think, is it perfectly clean? You know, if you have a dairy dish, even if it's not 100% clean, I don't care. I don't have to examine it. I just take it from the closet or from the dishwasher, and that's it. I use it. This way, I have to keep it in mind. Does it have a film? Maybe it's fat from the lamb, or maybe it's fat from the milk. I don't know. And so it becomes very difficult to handle this pressure. Just easier to have separate. But if you have to kosher it once, for example, you take it from your weekday and you say, I'm going to wash it very well, I'm going to make sure it's 100% clean, and then I'm going to use it throughout Pesach. Then I don't have to worry, that's okay. So to kosher it once is okay, but to have to kosher it again and again, that's not recommended.
But glass is different, right?
Same for glass.
Oh.
That's what we're talking about. Corelle is like a glass for Sephardim, yes.
I have a KitchenAid mixer with like an attachment for like a meat grinder. Would I be able to use that attachment? Even though like that will still turn on?
You have to use your judgment, as long as you make the base, the body of the mixer very clean, you wash it to the best of your ability, and the meat grinder part, you didn't put any bread in it, then you can continue using it for meat.
I mean, it's metal, so I will be like dipping it in water, like hot water. I'll be koshering it.
That's okay, but if you ever used bread with it, then we're concerned that maybe somewhere inside there's bread. So if that's the case and you still want to use it, then you would have to boil it in water with detergent. This way the detergent will go in and make it inedible. And even if the bread is there, it's going to become inedible. But for such a case, regular boiling water is not going to help. Because if there's a piece of chametz there, it's still going to stay.
And what about that thing that pushes the food down into the grinder? That's plastic. Would I
It's
have to get it
plastic, but as long as it's clean, meat that you put in there is cold, and therefore it's not gonna transfer taste.
Let's say if I did use bread, like use that and I pushed it down.
So again, it's better not to, because it's hard to clean. But if you did clean it very well and you know 100% it's clean, then you would still be able to use it because it's cold.
Okay.
You have a question?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know if we mentioned this before, but are we allowed to kosher utensils that were used all year round?
If the utensils are stainless steel, then you can clean them very well and then boil them. You have to be especially careful with forks, because between the teeth there might be some food, and you have to be careful with knives that are serrated, because sometimes between, again, those wavy parts, you can also get food stuck. And also knives sometimes have handles, and where the blade connects to the handle, there's often dirt there, so you have to clean it well. And when you're boiling your utensils, it's a good idea to add some detergent to it. This way, the detergent, even if you couldn't clean everything perfectly, the detergent will make it inedible. Okay, so if medicine or vitamins have taste, then you have to already make sure it doesn't have any alcohol, doesn't have anything from the 5 grains.
What about a new dish rack?
Dish rack is okay as long as you wash it.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, with wanted to say something about the medicine. Yeah, alcohol. Alcohol, if it is ethyl alcohol or ethanol, is considered chametz. Vodka, whiskey, all that is chametz. However, any other kind of alcohol is not. For example, isopropyl alcohol is fine. Denatured alcohol is fine. And any other fancy name, long name for alcohol that you see in your perfumes is fine, or chemicals. It's only the alcohol that is made from wheat, which is ethanol. The alcohol that we drink, or the medical alcohol, spirit in Russian, that is chametz. Yes.
What if you need to use those types of alcohols in school for like lab classes or stuff like that? Are you allowed to do that?
No, not ethanol. You can only use isopropyl alcohol. The regular ethanol you can use if it's denatured. If
What
it's
if,
denatured.
we need it, like if you get burned, like I'll spray like, you can't use that.
No, unless, again, they have other chemicals in it that make it inedible. For example, during COVID, the hand sanitizers, they had alcohol, 70%, 75%, 80% alcohol. So that is regular ethanol, but because the other ingredients make it inedible, that was okay. But still, if possible, isopropyl alcohol also cleans things. It also kills all the germs. So just use that. Now, any other questions? For buying food for Passover, make sure ideally that it should have hashgacha. If it doesn't have hashgacha, the general rule for Sephardim is if it doesn't contain any chametz and it was bought before Passover, then it is okay. Ashkenazim cannot follow that, but Sephardim, as long as in the ingredients it doesn't have any chametz, we're not concerned for that little bit of residue or absorption, because before Passover, chametz is nullified in 60 times, and if chametz is not listed, the only thing that we're concerned about is the absorption from the utensil, and that is nullified before Passover, and it stays kosher on Passover as well. However, you have to just be careful, because some ingredients are not listed as wheat or barley derivative, but they have a different name, but they are made from. For example, vinegar. Vinegar can be made from corn or wheat. And so we have to be careful. Anytime you see vinegar in your food, you should make sure your food has Passover hashgacha, because we don't know which vinegar they used. So vinegar you have to be careful with. Yes?
If it says like may contain or traces of.
Yeah, usually when it says may contain or traces of, we don't have to worry about it. Whether it is during the year, if it says may contain milk, then for us it's par, because it becomes nullified. Same with may contain wheat or anything else. For us, it becomes nullified before Passover. But again, you have to buy it before Passover. And one more item, animal food also has to be kosher for Pesach. It doesn't have to be kosher, but it has to be kosher for Pesach, which means it can have pork in it, but it cannot have chametz in it. So you have to make sure it doesn't list any of the 5 grains, wheat and barley or oats, rye or spelt. If it does, then you have to look for substitute. And it mainly concerns birds, because bird feed usually has these grains. So you have to replace it with things like millet. Millet is not chametz. For fish, if it's flakes, then some allowed because they say flakes, fish flakes, they are not edible to a dog, and therefore as long as you don't bring it next to your utensils or next to your kitchen, it's okay to use for fish, but that's only for the flakes. Anything else has to be free of wheat and other grains. So if you have pellets or any other food for fish, you have to replace it. And dog food and cat food, sometimes, especially dog food, has grains, so you have to find grain-free formula. Yes?
So for food that was bought before Passover, without the Passover certification, is it okay to use it if it was already opened before Passover?
Yeah, whether food has Passover certification or doesn't, if it was already open, you have to just make sure that you remember that you always kept it separate, you never left it open, during baking especially, that nothing ever went in. You always used clean spoon, you just opened it, poured it out, or scooped it out with a clean spoon and closed it right away. If that's the case, then you can continue using it. So, and one more thing, if you have matzah saved from previous years, it still stays matzah, doesn't become chametz unless it was open or exposed to chametz. You can use this matzah for this Pesach. Yes?
I keep my rice in a container, and am I allowed to use it during Pesach with that same, or do I have to move that container?
Same idea. If your container was clean, but chances are it may be covered with flour from your baking, so it's preferably not. You can use that container, but wash it first and then fill it up with fresh rice. And anyway, if you're planning to use that rice in the container, you would have to clean it anyway. So you have to empty the container anyway. Okay. If you have any questions, you can always text me or WhatsApp me on the group or privately. And Emet website will have these folders, all the contents of these folders on it. You can print it, as well as the link for selling your chametz. Check it, it's going to be updated. Thank you for listening. Happy Passover. Chag Kasher v'Sameach.